Once again, good morning and welcome to our class today. Our topic today is on chapter 5, lesson number 1. It's on data collection procedure. And today's memory verse is found in Matthew 25, verse 34. In the King James Version, it says, "Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." At the end of today's class, you will be able to be aware of the importance of data in research. Second, understand the role of data in research. Third, plans data collection procedure. And the last is understand the different ways of collecting data. Now let's have some vocabulary improvements. This is using context clues. So with this one, I'll just project a group of words, and based on the other words, you tell me what does it mean, the underlined word. Now let's start with the first one, arbitrary. In your own words, what do you mean by arbitrary? Let me start with Bryant.
What were the
Again,
random choice, ma'am?
possible. Actually, in math, if you say arbitrary, it's just temporary. It can be placed, it's biased because it can have any values. That's arbitrary. The second one, let's have Shimei, graduated. Graduated.
Finished.
Again,
Finished.
finished. Very good. Next, let's have Emilio, remote. Remote.
Secluded, ma'am.
Again,
Secluded.
or secluded. Very good. It's far away, di ba? Actually, there are synonyms. Next one, Kaiser, denote. Denote.
Vital, ma'am.
Vital. That's a very deep word. Actually, there are two kinds of meaning, right? It can be denotation or connotation. So what does it mean? Next, let's have Abby, advent. Advent. Advent.
Or coming or
Oh, very good. Yes, actually, it's very synonymous to coming. The next one, Zahara, erroneous. Erroneous. Zahara. How about Joshua? Joshua, erroneous.
By mistake.
Oh, very good. By mistake, error, right? Next, Jera. Jera is with us, preoccupied. Preoccupied. Where's Jera? Oh, let's go back to Bryant. Preoccupied. What are you preoccupied of?
Magkabisihan, ma'am.
Very good. Next, I'll just have the last, I'll just project the next ones. Highfalutin. How do you know? It's so complicated with the word again. Then we also have manipulate. You know what? This is a very serious word in research, manipulate. Researchers should always tell you, do not manipulate your data. It means you do not make you did not make a twist, or you did not direct your data to the one that you want to have. Do not manipulate your data. Or another one, yield. What is the yield of your data? What does the results yield? So These are some of the words that we can use in research. Now, another, what comes to your mind when you hear the word quantitative data collection techniques? Shall I hear from Kaiser? What comes to your
Nu-
mind?
Numerical, ma'am.
Numerical. How about Emilio?
Statistics, ma'am.
Okay, statistics. How about Jera? Where's Jera? How about Zahara? Not here. Joshua, what comes to your mind?
Surveys.
You see, there might be many things, words and phrases that comes to our mind when we say data collection, quantitative data collection techniques. And since it's qualitative, we might first think of numbers. Okay, numbers, data, survey, interviews, many things. Now let's start with the definition of quantitative data. Kaiser mentioned a while ago of the word numerical or numbers. Now, what are quantitative data? You see, the word my mnemonic will always be the N. If I'll say, how do I remember it's numerical? Quantitative. If it's language, qualitative. So if you say quantitative data, these are pieces of information that are measurable, numerical, and related to a metrical system. So you might ask, if this will be my variable, will I get numerical data? Or can my data be translated or be coded to a numerical system? For example, let's go back to a favorite example, the relationship between attitude towards math and academic performance. Now, how do I measure academic performance? Grades. Therefore, it's numerical. Okay, but how do I measure attitude? Remember, this is a quantitative data. How will I turn this attitude into a numeric form? So I can code 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, highly positive. 4, positive. 3, neutral. 2, negative. 1, highly negative. So you see, you need to think right now, how can you convert your data into a measurable or numerical form? Because that makes it quantitative. Now, these are the two types of data, qualitative and quantitative. And qualitative data, again, are numerical or can be coded into numbers. Example, scores in the exam, weight or mass of a person or subject, or your shoe size. Now, what are example of qualitative data? Green colors like green, white, and blue, the smell, and the names. We could not code this. Ma'am, what about gender? That's intriguing, right? Can you tell me how can my study about the relationship between gender and academic performance be qualitative or quantitative? Who can give me the answer? I'll give a bonus point. Raise your hand first. My study will be the relationship of gender and academic performance. Is it a qualitative or a quantitative study? Anyone? Okay, Bryant. Bryant first.
Quantitative nga yan.
Quanti. How can you make it quanti?
Kay, ang relationship man nila, ma'am.
Pero ang
Mas-
gender,
Naguroy ko na ma'am, kanang pasihan ko na, ma'am.
good one. How about Kaiser? I've seen Kaiser raising his hand. Quali or quanti?
Quanti.
Again,
Quanti, ma'am. Quanti.
quanti. How can you make gender quantitative?
Kuan, ma'am, based sa number sa mga participants, pwede naman siya maging numerical. Kung siya mas dagan ang female ba or ang male sa through investigation or through survey, numerical naman siya. Or pwede po ko mag-Kimog Likert scale, ma'am.
Sa gender.
About sa academic, yes.
That's a very good try. Let me have another one. No more? Actually, if you see, gender is qualitative in nature. But diba, I told you two things. First is, it can be quantitative if the answer can be a number. Ma'am, the gender's answer can only be male or female. But I told you the second one. Or it can be coded into a number. You know, it can be a quantitative data. How do we do it? Male, assign number 1. Female, assign number 2. So even if they will answer male or female, it's a qualitative variable, but when you code it, it's going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it becomes numerical. So it is a quantitative research. Very good try, Carl and Kaiser. Now, what are some techniques in collecting quantitative data? You might ask me, ma'am, which is easier to collect, quantitative data or qualitative data? They say that in qualitative data, if you're done writing your chapters 1 to 3, you're only done with 25% of your research. Because the main part of the research for qualitative is in the data collection. It's very bulky. They will have series of interviews or focus group discussions. Then you interpret the result, you triangulate it again, check if this is true, then interpret again, then make themes. I think you have that in your practical research 1. So 75% is here in the data collection. But in quantitative data, I should say that once you're done writing from your chapters 1 to 3 with a good research instrument, you're done with 60% of your research work. Because the heavy debate lies in the research instrument this time and on how you will collect your data. The 40% is already very easy to accomplish. You fly out your instrument, you analyze with staff, then we interpret results. Now, collecting data in research is a major component. That's why I told you we need to move our research proposal defense earlier, because collecting data takes much time. And stress must be given on how accurate or appropriate your data gathering technique, and if you have used the right instrument. Why? If the data gathering procedure will tell us how authentic, how true your research results are. And we need to have the right instrument in order to get the right data. Now, what are some techniques that we will discuss today? There are 5. First is observation. Second is surveys. Surveys can be done through a questionnaire or it can be done through an interview. Next is experiment. And the last is document review, or in our module, let me first check it, it's content analysis. Now, how do we do this? The first one is observation. As first half, for example, you're observing the behavior of students who are listening to rock music. So you are there, the researcher observant, and you keep on listing. What's the observation? They are very restless. Another, they tend to shout. What else? They are hyperactive. You can make that one. Anything that you can see with your eyes or you can hear, we say that's based on your observation. Now, that is what we call, if you are looking at the participant, if you are hearing at the participant firsthand, we call that direct observation. Now, we have also what we call indirect observation. How do we do indirect observation? You see them, you hear them, but then you are using technological or electronic gadgets like audio tapes, video records, and other recording devices used to capture earlier events, images, or sounds. For example, you are just observing through a CCTV. That is an indirect observation. Or you are just analyzing data based on a recorded audio tape. That you hear it, but it's not firsthand, right? It goes through another source. So we call it indirect observation. But if it's firsthand, we call it direct observation. Now, ma'am, if you observe, should it only be a notes? No. For example, if you have a checklist, like for example, these are all the possible behaviors, and you just check if you will see it, or you have the frequency, it's okay. The next type of data collection procedure is through surveys. This is the most popular data collection procedure for quantitative data. Now, a survey is a data gathering technique wherein you gather facts or information of an object or subject through data gathering, either through interview or through questionnaire. The most popular for quantitative is through a questionnaire. Like we prepare a questionnaire and then we let our research participant answer it. Now, how can it be through an interview? If you convert your questionnaire into an oral questioning, then we call it an interview. Now, there are some guide on how to conduct interview questions, or we say there are order of interview questions. This is based on Sarantakos, Franville, as cited by Baraceros in 2016. We have first set, second set, third, and fourth. Now, if you have interview questions, the first set of questions must to build, at least the word is rapport. It's spelled as, sorry, I'm not using my pen this time, only using my mouse pad. Now, what is a rapport? If you say you're building rapport, it means you establish a relationship. For example, how can that be done? If you start with an interview, that go indirectly. Okay, what's your attitude towards your teacher in math? No. We establish first friendly relationships with the interviewee. And the first set of questions, by the way, if you have interviews, you need to ask consent to the interviewee that you will record the interview. Why do we record the interviews? For us to double check whether our analysis is the same with the real interview. Now, the first set of questions may or may not be recorded. Now, what are the common questions? Example, can you tell us about yourself? So that's one. Can you describe yourself? Now, where do you live? What's your name? Diba? Because you see, these are strangers. So you don't just go directly and ask them your main question. No, the second set of questions will be open-ended questions. Not yet in the Likert scale. Open-ended. It means they are free to construct their answers. For example, what do you think about mathematics? How do you behave when you see your math teacher? See, these are open-ended questions. Or you might, what do you think about being in a relationship? Then the third set of questions will be close-ended. It means you already provide choices. And usually these are answerable by yes or no, or by in a scale of 1 to 5. Can you tell me how do you feel, the fear that you feel when taking a math exam? Or you say, are your hands shaking when you take a math exam? Do you think you can, when you answer a math exam, do you think you can answer it? So you provide them options with yes or no, 1 to 5, that one. And the fourth set of questions will be your closure of the interview. What's in the closure? You give them the chance to say more that is not included in your questions. Like, can you say more comments about your attitude towards math that I did not include? Or what do you think, if you'll be the future math teacher, how do you what do you think would be the best way, would be the better way for students to get a positive attitude towards math? So these are different sets of interview question. Again, first set, opening. We build relationships. Second set, open-ended. We listen to their views. Third set, we have close-ended questions with an option. And the fourth set, the closure on their views, ending questions. Now, here are some guidelines when we formulate interview questions. Number 1, use clear and straightforward language. Let me give you an example in our vocabulary improvement. What do you think of the highfalutin of the mathematics class? Bidaw responded, highfalutin. So, you see, you need to use simple words when we conduct interview. You might say, why do you think mathematics is a difficult subject or a complex subject? So use clear and straightforward language. Second, avoid using acronyms, abbreviations, jargon, and highfalutin terms. For example, what do you think about the LP this time? You see LP. What is LP? If I'm a pro-election Liberal Party, or is it Lorna Paulican? You see that already. What's LP? Low pressure. So we avoid using acronyms and abbreviations. Before, here, for example, ma'am, my study has a very long title. So if I keep on repeating that long title, it's very wordy. Here, if you have a long title, like in my case, I have team-based flipped classroom. So kung balik-balik, team-based flipped classroom, it's very wordy. But you see, you can use the whole word first and tell us of the abbreviation. You say team-based flipped classroom or TBFC. So in the later part of the interview, we can just use TBFC. The third one, let one question elicit only one answer or no double barrel questions. So one question, one possible answer. Like for example, you rate yourself in terms of math anxiety. So just one, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is it possible that here's a possibility. You rate your your test anxiety or the level of your fear when you take a math exam. Depende ma'am kung basic calculus kay 4 pero kung stat 5. Diba? You see, these are double barrel questions. So you need to be very specific. Okay, in your pre-calculus class, you rate your test anxiety. Now, the next one, number 4, express your point specific, bias-free, and gender-free language. For example, what is the effect of classical music? If I'm the interviewee, I have so many things to think. What? On my reading comprehension? Is it on my pulse rate? Is it on my heart rate, respiratory rate? So you need to be very specific on your question. Bias-free and gender-free language. Now, like, let me ask you a bias question. A bias question. Why do you think PE is more interesting than math? That's very biased for me as a math teacher. You can make that into a bias-free question. Example, which do you think is more interesting, PE classes or math classes? So that's it. You don't make a judgment based on your question. The next way, give way to how your respondents want themselves to be identified. Do you want to be identified with a pseudonym or with participant 1, 2, and 3? Or at the very start, ma'am, do you want me to address you as Ma'am Leo, Mrs. Pondara, or Leo? You need to have that at the very start of your interview. And the next one, establish continuity or the free flow of respondents' thoughts through follow-up questions. Here, when you conduct interview, there's a main research question. Then there are follow-up questions. Example, how do you feel when you're about to take a math exam? Ma'am ka na, mahandlok yun ko ay. What are the physical signs, symptoms that you're feeling? Sweaty hands. Ma'am, magkanang kondyon. Magkurog-kurog akong kamot. Then you gotta have more questions on that. Based on, not just end, how do you feel when you take a math class? Mahadlok yun ko. Okay, question number 2. No, not like that, okay? Make some follow-up questions for you to have the right answers. Then the last one, sequentially ask questions. Remember, opening, middle, and closing. If you have questions all about attitude, group them into one. If you have questions all about test anxiety, group them into one. Dili kay question number 1 dire, talapod sa 2 sa pikas, balik na po sa 3. You need to make it in order. Now, let me stop my screen sharing first because I'm about